So, right, so first and foremost, I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yoshai, Ba'Shem Kakodash. We said I'm going to support and Elohim Agreement and Ruah, teaches our person the truth. And we see salutations so the I can push you with no truth and sincerity, day in and day out, and constantly in season and season to Shalom. Once again, going into our video here, and this basically touching upon this news, right? Now, for the past few, I believe it was last week or week before, I did some videos going into some of the earthquakes happening in Japan. How they are going through like 900 earthquakes per night or something like that. To the fact where news came on that the citizens there were afraid to sleep. Right? They were afraid to sleep because they thought something was going to happen, or they believed something is going to happen, which eventually it's reported that they are preparing for something called a mega quake, right? Now this news came out. This news here came out today, right? As it says 6:58 a.m., the 9th of July 2025. It said just in hundreds of earthquakes detected at Washington's Mount Rainier, New York Post reports. So it's a hundreds of earthquakes. Now, as you can see, I had mentioned even in the previous videos that I did, that there were a bunch of earthquakes happening that people don't pay that they're not paying attention to, right? Um, so even you see, there's a bunch of stuff happening in the world right now, right? The earthquakes, you see the floods, right? The storms. I was watching one yesterday. I will check this page here to see if they have a video on it where I believe it's Mexico, one of these places that so much of flood, like flash floods. It cover up houses. It wash away some of the houses. I believe it wash away a children camp, and some of the children they passed away. Right? It goes to show that the time that we're living in. Right? And the Lord tell us about the signs, the things to pay attention to. Right? The signs of the end, because the end is being one made manifest. The Lord tell us about the wars, the earthquakes, the pestilences, the famines and so forth, and all these things we are seeing in the midst of us. Right? Let's bring the scripture. They see the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 39, verse 1. It says, but he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High, and is occupied in the meditation thereof, will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient, and be occupied in prophecies, and how you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be occupied in prophecies. There's a lot of stuff happening right now, and why being occupied in prophecies, you gotta do what? As a man, the Lord, they go there and give the people warning, right? Warning of the things to come, warning of the things the Lord tell us that going and happen, and it will happen, right? All these things, because in some of the comments here, like for example, this person here marked this the seismic activity is within the realm of normal. So they believe that everything is just normal. It's not, you know, it's not, right? You see, Japan, you see now in America, and many other places are reporting of strange activities happening in the sea, happening on land, you know. Even I reading one recently, they saw something flying in space, and we know what that is. There's the chariots, right? You know, hey, we just in that time, right? But we also know that it would have the unbelievers, those that wouldn't believe of the things that were foretold unto us, the things that going and happen. So this come like a normal thing to them, as he said. It's what a no within the realm of normal for Mount Rainier, given its history of annual swarms, its status as an active volcano, right? So it say, however, the scale of this swarm, hundreds of quakes, the largest since 2009, is on the higher end of typical activity, warranting close observation. It's not a sign of an imminent eruption, but rather a reminder of the volcano's active nature. Right now, if you've been paying attention, as I said before, again, and be occupied in prophecies that the scriptures say, you would notice that there's so much of activities happening around the world, right? I brought up the one with Japan, and so forth and so on. And even recently, there were an article put out about um, some active volcanoes that could cause massive catastrophe that's becoming more active again, emphasizing the time that we are in, right? Things ain't going to get better, right? So going into let me go into looking for something on the I'll bring this just now. Right. So let me just see if I find so many videos here. Alright, so that's the one here. I'm trying to see if there are the videos with I see, and look another one here. 8 hours ago, series of earthquakes shook much of Guatemala, 2 killed. And it's, you see, it's just, when you're reading some of these news now, in past times, right? In past times, you'd have read like one earthquake per some places would have been one felt earthquake for a year, one felt earthquake in like 6 months. Now you're hearing it every other week. To the fact where you're hearing it every other day, and it's just not one place. Now you're hearing it all over the world, right? Hearing it all over the world. It's a series of earthquakes shook much. Series of earthquakes, right? It says something is seriously wrong with the weather forecast in South and Northern America, and it's again seeing how this place has been afflicted, right? And how the Lord say go visit here in what? In earthquakes and storms, right? So I'm just bring the scripture here, 2nd Ezra chapter 9, and I'll read from verse 1. It says, He answered me then and said, Measure all the time diligently in itself, right? And when thou seest part of the signs past which I have told thee before, then shalt thou understand that it is the very same time wherein the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. So it says, He answered me then and said, Measure all the time diligently in itself, and that way it's supposed to be doing. Once you're occupied in prophecies, you understand that the time that we are in, right? These things are happening. Watch how much news we pass here going into what? To war, going into all these things. You say, look this one right here. It say, EU unveils stockpiling strategy to prepare for war. That is what being spoken about. You see, the earth, again, what they ask, what is the signs? Tell us the signs of thy coming. The wars, rumors of wars, right? The earthquakes, the pestilences, the diseases, the famines, right? We're seeing all of that happening. The person before who was reading before, he says are normal, but when have this ever been normal? To the fact where you have seen so much of earthquakes all around the world. I'm not as old as other people, but the years I've spent upon here, I've never heard so much of earthquakes ever before. And I'm sure if I've asked a older, matter of fact, not asked, an older guy that was older than me, somewhere around the 50s, 60s days. So he was basically speaking and saying, I'm talking about the amount of earthquakes happening. And he was saying, he never heard that before. Right? But we don't know these unbelievers, they're not measuring the time diligently. They're not being occupied in prophecies. Their focus is on anything else, especially these 2/3. To them, this is just like a normal thing until eventually it afflict them, until eventually it hit them. And that is when now they will want to do what? That is when now they will want to seek the Lord, right? I said, then shall thou understand that it is the very same time when the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when there shall be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, then shalt thou well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like as all that is made in the world had the beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. Even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings in wonder and powerful works, and endings in effects and signs. Right? So they say, even so the times also of the highest have plain beginnings in wonder and powerful works, and endings in effects and signs. In effects and signs, and we are seeing the signs of the end. Right? Let me see if I go down again. Look, this is what it's talking about. It said that toll in Texas flood climbs to 108 with more rain expected. Texas, Mexico, all these places was going through this. And they're still going through this even on right now. Because the rain didn't stop. When I started doing this video, even on the island here, we were going through some bad weather. Right? It may not be as bad as here, but so if we hear they themselves are going through it still. Right? I was mentioning before about the summer camp with the children in the summer camp who got swept away, right, by the flood. You know, so it's so and everyone that shall be saved and shall be able to escape by his works and by faith whereby ye have believed, and what, and it say everyone that shall be saved. You understand that how where you gonna get saved from? To be saved, that means something had to be happening. So it goes to show how these unbelievers that think nothing gonna happen, they have it totally wrong. Even these Christians that believe nothing ain't gonna happen to this place, they have it totally wrong. To say you're gonna be saved, that means you have to be saved from something. Right? And the Lord tells us that all these things that's going to plague this place. Right? And we're seeing it happening more rapidly. I was reading something this morning where they was talking about time. How time is actually being shortened. I believe today is they're saying today is the shortest day. And from here on out, time is going to be more short. The days going to come quicker. And the Lord mentioned those things. The days being shortened for the elect's sake. Right? So again, in the time that we are in, these perilous times. Right? So don't feel, death and destruction is at every corner. Look this here, say almost half of Europe and Mediterranean basin hit by drought. Hit by a drought. Right? So we're going to talk about, now what you say, it remind me, is the scripture in Revelation talk about the Euphrates drying up. Right? So, hey, what's the time that we in? What's the time that we're in? Watch how much things happening all around the world. Things is not normal. Things is not normal. Going back to what the guys say, talk about, no, that's not normal. Because just like this was to say, Monday and Tuesday were already wild. This would make for a spicy Wednesday. So yeah. So each day it keeps getting worse and worse. You understand? Each day it keeps getting worse and worse. And we understand that. Right? The pains are going to come upon this place. Right? I say the most dangerous high casualty risk volcano in the country. Let's build major cities in its lava flow. Right? So yeah. Right? So, hey, pay attention to what is going on. Be occupied in prophecies. And don't be like these unbelievers just, asleep. Because they're going to get caught in that unbelieving. Right? We're not the end is being made manifest. So once again, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushua, Ba'Shem Kakodash. We said about our apostle and elders, agreements and rule, teachers, our apostle in the truth, and we say salutations for the Akamas, the push within our truth and sincerity, day in and day out, and constantly in season and season. We say Shalom.